guys. How are you?
Good evening.
Scott Laird, Jody Laird. Welcome to Laird Wellness Live. This is going to be a fun one tonight. Since, COVID is like, where'd it go? I don't know. It just disappeared. Where's Fauci? I don't know. He disappeared with COVID. Maybe it was all just a bad dream. I don't know. It's weird. Let's just leave it at that. So we're not going to talk about that. What we are going to talk about is wellness myths. Now that we have kind of the go-ahead to, go to the beach in the summer and that kind of thing. A lot of people are thinking about losing weight and that kind of stuff and getting ready for, traveling and this type of thing. A lot of airlines, Jody, you mentioned airlines are dropping restrictions on all kinds of things. So, we'll just... It'll be what it is. So Great. Let's just go with it and have some fun. So now before you get to those things, we want to let you know about some wellness myths. We have the top 10 wellness myths that we come across all the time when folks are coming to us for health advice. They get their blood test done with us, as you know, and we lead them through either 6 weeks or 12 weeks of coaching or just the blood test itself. But there's a lot of misconceptions out there because of just some false narratives out there. And just the fact that when we do testing like this, for example, we're comparing ourselves against all other Americans. Well, My question is, do you want to be like all other Americans or do you want to be a step above that? And so we kind of have to bring ourselves outside the box to think about this and say, well, no, I'm not like that. I'm off to the side over here. I'm going to be healthier. So this is how you can be healthier. When we're thinking about that type of thing. So it has to do with reference intervals, has to do with things you've heard in the news and just, these general things that are pushed out there that are intended for everybody when really, everybody is individual. We're not all put into the same box. So these are the things you need to watch out for and just be wise about. So we're going to teach you to be wise as well. And then at the end, we're going to teach you how you can be a part of what we're doing. We've had... Let's see now. We have people doing our 12-week program right now. We have people doing our 6-week program. We just had somebody sign up for our testing only because they want to just get the test and combine that with other things they're doing. So completely flexible, and we get it. And all kinds of things we can do. Right. And exciting things happening with Dr. Lewis and other things that we're planning. So, and we're actually going to Nashville this weekend. We're going to meet up with people like Peter McCullough, Judy Mikovits, Del Bigtree, Robert Kennedy Jr. So exciting times, and we're going to hopefully get some more connections there as well. All right, so the first thing we want to bring to your attention is the fact that these fads with gluten, etc., or being gluten-free are maybe not all what they're cracked up to be if you're going to do it the wrong way. So our myth number 10 is that gluten-free is healthy. Now, this is just the blanket statement that gluten-free is healthy. Going gluten-free is a way to mitigate what's happening in your body. Like, for example, people are gluten sensitive, like myself, my son, Van. We both get kind of emotionally irritable and things like this with gluten. And he used to get a facial tic. He did this winking thing, and it was kind of like, what is going on with that? But it was all gluten. We took gluten out of his diet and it stopped. So
gut brain,
it's a gut brain connection. So the solution that we did as well, because we weren't sure what to do and millions of people do it, is to go gluten-free.
Right.
It's not really the solution. The solution is to figure out what's going on with your gut. Why can't you handle gluten? Well, it's not as simple as that either, because we all know that wheat, because it has been hybridized so many times over the years, not necessarily GMO, we're not talking about that, but just hybridizing wheat, which is a natural, cross-pollination with different, pollination, I should say, with different varieties of wheat. We get wheat that is good for pastry, which is very light and flaky, and we have wheat that is very good for pasta, which needs to be stretchy and very strong. So there's all kinds of different gluten consistencies, percentages in the wheat. And so what has that done to the wheat? It has accidentally caused an astronomically amount of wheat in gluten in the wheat that human bodies are not equipped to handle.
That's right.
So that's the other half of the
equation. And it affects everybody differently.
Yep.
I learned something this past couple of weeks. when somebody is allergic to something, they could be anaphylactic. So, for instance, nuts, peanuts, that kind of thing. But if you're sensitive to something, that just doesn't mean you're sensitive and you might get a bloated belly. Sensitive means you have delayed reactions to
Okay.
allergies or allergens or food sensitivity. So if you are sensitive to gluten, you may not know it for 3 or 4 days, and then you might have something happen like a migraine, like bloated stomach, like difference in bowels, and that's how it might affect you. But you won't know unless you eliminate it and bring it back in.
Interesting.
So that's how sensitivities work.
Now, I'm going to be interviewing a lady for my health show. Actually, it's for Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood's ministry at ShabbatNightLive.com if you want to watch it. In a couple of months, we're interviewing this lady named Sue Becker, and she's from the Bread Beckers is what their website is. Cute. And they say that if you take wheat berries,
Right.
like whole wheat berries, and that's basically the grain, if you've never heard of the term wheat berries. So just the grain itself,
The whole grain.
the whole grain, grind it, and then immediately make bread with it right after that. That apparently the gluten is not a problem for most people. Now, celiacs, it's a little bit different. But for folks like our family, we're going to see. I mean, I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, maybe that is the solution. Maybe it's just the fact that we buy bread from a store, or even if we make bread at home, it's with flour that's already made. Is that the problem?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe she's got a point. So we're going to see what she has to
you
say.
never know what's coming down the pipe
Yep.
in the world. So
Right. Now, the other reason why gluten-free, not to belabor this point because we have 9 more to go here, but the other reason gluten-free is not healthy is because, well, if you eliminate gluten, what do they run to? Corn and rice. Well, corn and rice are full of things that are going to convert to sugar very rapidly in your body. So if you go gluten-free and you're not careful with how much of that stuff you ingest, you're going to be spiking your insulin. You're going to be taking your sugar numbers out of whack. Your A1C is going to be out of whack, and you're going to be diabetic or pre-diabetic because of it. And you think you're doing a healthy thing, but maybe you're not.
Yep.
So, and that goes for a whole lot of things. I thought of this earlier today, was that, if something is unhealthy, I'm not saying bread is unhealthy, but let's say a hot dog. If a hot dog is typically unhealthy, or too much cheese is unhealthy, don't go for the vegan or the vegetarian or the substitute that is like a hot dog or is like a regular cheese, all these other things, because typically they're not any healthier.
No.
They've got to mess with the consistencies and all this stuff, and they're doing all these chemical gymnastics to try and come up with something that is like cheese or that is like a hot dog. And it turns out there's so much garbage in there that's not even healthier for you. So the thing is that if something's unhealthy, just stay away from it. Right. Don't try and go for the fake hot dog. Just avoid hot dogs. That type of thing. So anyway, that's just a word of advice. Here's some more advice. Number 9 on our list of health myths or wellness myths. Number 9 is 100% daily value is not enough. Now, this used to be called the US RDA, the Recommended Daily Allowance. Now they call it a DV, and it's on the back of every package. You see the nutrition facts, and it says, based on a 2,000 calorie diet, these 2,000 calories a day diet, these are the daily values of each one of these nutrients that you should have. Okay, that's fine. So if you have 100% daily value of vitamin C, that is enough to keep you alive. For one day. That's it. It's the 100% is just to sustain human life.
Means you won't get scurvy today.
Right. Yeah. Won't get, maybe tomorrow, but not today. And usually all those nutrients that list on the back of the package, number 1, that's not all the nutrients that are in food.
Right.
That's like a select group of 10. There's hundreds. And so you can't really just rely on those. Those are very basic things. It's like putting N, P, and K, the 3 nutrients that you put in fertilizer. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium and phosphorus? Sorry, I can't remember my the table of elements. Anyway, those are just 3 nutrients they put back in the soil. What about magnesium? What about boron? What about all these other things?
Selenium?
What about selenium?
Yeah.
This is how we create imbalances, when we don't put everything back in that we take out. Okay, so this is just it. All the things on the back of a nutrition panel, you can't just go by that. There's many, many other things. It'll give you some kind of idea, and that's the reason why they did it. I mean, the intentions were good, but 100% is not good enough, especially if you are deficient in that nutrient.
Right.
So if you're deficient in vitamin C, for example, 100% of your daily value is not going to, break the ceiling for you and get you back into a normal range. So you got to have a therapeutic value. That's why when you see on the back of supplements, like for example, the vitamin B that we take is 18,000%. Why? Because today's stresses and everything else really depletes B vitamins. Lots of coffee, working indoors, all the things.
Not to mention, if you have any sort of dysbiosis at all in your gut, you're not going to absorb those vitamins. Right. So you're going to need them. Yeah.
Right. So people say, well, why do I need 18,000% of a vitamin B? That's ridiculous. Because we live in a ridiculous world. That's why. So we supplement in this world. That's why we need supplements in this world, because we don't live naturally. And because we don't live naturally, we need to fight back with things that maybe aren't that natural. So, I mean, that's just what we have to do. We have to fight fire with fire. Yep. That's really what we're up against. So that's why daily value is never enough. Now, number 8. Blood testing ranges are healthy. Well, okay. So we have this blood test that we look at. I had a graphic for you, and I forgot to bring it up. Darn it. Anyway, is it up here? Let's see. Let me check it out. No, it isn't. Okay. So anyway, on the far right-hand side of any blood test you get, there's something called a reference interval. So, for example, if you look at
vitamin
D. So they'll say as long as you are between 25 and 50 nanograms per milliliter, that's just the way they measure vitamin D. There's all kinds of other measurements that other things go by. But for vitamin D, as long as you are between 25 and 50, or as long as you're above 25, usually that's what they say, 25 or over, you're good. And that's not good. That's, again, these reference intervals, like we were saying before, are based on what everybody else is. So when they test people, they kind of take an average of, okay, well, the average person has about 25 nanograms per milliliter of vitamin D. And that just ain't enough. Especially when we just came out of a pandemic, like with COVID, we found out that that particular virus, or mutation of a virus, whatever it was, really liked to attack cells that depended on vitamin D and just depleted them, and that's where all the cytokine storms came from and everything else. So vitamin D was extremely important to have way above 25. I mean, there was a study in Indonesia in the middle of all this where they took 800 people, and if their levels of vitamin D were 25, which is recommended by most, LabCorp and other places like that. That's your reference interval. As long as you're above 25, you're good. If people were around 25, they had a very serious risk of dying from COVID. And so if you were between 80 and 100 on that same range, something that reference interval wouldn't even begin to tell you that you needed to be between 80 and 100. But if you were between 80 and 100, that Indonesian study showed that you were pretty much guaranteed to live through COVID.
Right.
So there you go. That's important. How important vitamin D is for your immune system, not just for COVID, but for all kinds of things.
Yeah. And everybody should know.
It helps your immune system.
Everybody should know what their vitamin D number is.
Yeah.
Do you know what your vitamin D number is?
Yeah.
You should know.
And even if you don't want to go to LabCorp and get a blood test and go, I just haven't have time for that or whatever, you can get home tests now. You basically, our daughter did that. You put your vitamin, or you have a pin prick. They give you this little kit with an absorbable cardboard pad, and you basically have a pin prick thing, and they prick your finger, and you bleed onto the cardboard, and it basically soaks into the cardboard, and then you just wrap it up, put it in the envelope that they provide, send it off, and you get your readings by email. So there you go. It's that simple. So blood testing ranges are not healthy, and we'll get into more about that in a second, but you're talking about cholesterol numbers. Those are out of range. For being healthy, what you see on that blood test where it says, yep, you're fine, and that's what your doctor goes by typically. If the doctor is too busy or doesn't know much about these ranges, they'll just say, oh, okay, you're in range, you're in range, you're in range. Okay, good, fine, thanks, see you next year. And it's like, wait a minute.
And that doesn't do anything. That's a whole show within itself, because I would say 95% of the blood tests I see, which I see a lot day in, day out, people are high in cholesterol. High, according to LabCorp, in cholesterol.
And we're going to get to that. So
don't even worry about
they
that.
flag it just because, because they say it's over 199, and if yours is like 200, flag, and then all of a sudden you get panicked because you don't know anything about these reference intervals. You look at it and go, oh my God, I'm high. But nope.
And they want to put you on a statin if you're high over 200.
Yeah. So
don't let them.
No, we'll get to that. So you really need to talk to somebody who has optimal ranges. And that's what we do with Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis says, no, I don't care if your sedimentation rate is 8. I want it down at 2. I don't care if you're, if LabCorp says that if you have anywhere between 8 and 10,000 white blood cells, that's okay. He says, no, anything above 6,000, according to the research he's done and what he's seen in many, many different papers, anything above 6,000 is very dangerous over the long term. See, these things are kind of like the recommended daily value. It's enough to keep you alive. It's not optimal.
Right.
The reference intervals on a LabCorp blood test result are not optimal. They are enough to keep you alive. So if you have some smoldering infection or a disease starting in your body, those reference intervals will never alert you to it, ever, and put you on unnecessary drugs, as Jody was talking, if things like the cholesterol numbers are out. So we'll talk about more of that in a second. All right, so, speak of the devil, there it is. Yeah, cholesterol. Cholesterol over 199, we're talking about total cholesterol, 199 is bad. Now, I had, as a vegan, when I was vegan, now I still eat mostly a plant-based diet, and I add a little bit of meat here and there. My body just, whether it's due to my blood type, I'm sure that's part of it. I think there is some credence to that. And other factors, I just do better with more plants, less meat. I do eat some meat, though. But when I was vegan, my cholesterol was 164.
I know.
And man, did that look good for life insurance applications and for what else? Health insurance applications. But you know what? 164 is not enough. Why? Because we have a water-based blood system. Would you agree that blood is water? Yes, it's water-based. It's not oil-based. However, cholesterol and fat-soluble nutrients are oil-based. So how are you going to get oil-based nutrients through a water-based system? Because oil and water don't mix.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Cholesterol is the carrier. It's like the submarine that takes the people through the water, right? That's what you need. You need a vehicle, or sometimes I call it a taxi. It's the taxi that takes your fat-soluble nutrients around your body. Now, if you take a statin, like Jody was talking about, that basically flattens the tire of your taxi. It does not allow you to take the nutrients around your body efficiently enough. And so that's why you need higher cholesterol to get those fat-soluble nutrients around your body. Is it dangerous? No. No, it is not. The ranges are what matter, and the type of cholesterol.
And when you say ranges, you mean the ratios.
Ratios, thank you. Wrong word. Yes, ratios. The ratios matter. The HDL to LDL and all that, and compared to the triglycerides, all those are in your cholesterol number. LDL and HDL are mostly not cholesterol anyway. They're high density and low density lipoproteins. They're not cholesterol, even though they're called cholesterol. Anyway, so that's just a misnomer. But yes, cholesterol over 200 is optimal. If you were to talk to Dr. Lewis, and we talk to people all the time with Dr. Lewis's research, and I tend to agree, anywhere between 220 and 260?
220 and 280.
280. 220 and 280.
Maybe it's 260.
Your doctor would be panicking if you had cholesterol that high. And we say, hey, good job. Because that's what you want. Now, you want HDL over 50 for sure. And the higher you can get the HDL, yes, we'll agree with mainstream medicine. Yes, the higher HDL we want, that's the better. And why is that? Well, here's why. Let's take the analogy of cars again when we're talking about cholesterol. So there's LDL and HDL, and then there's your cell. Okay? So here's your cell. Let's use airplanes instead of cars. This works better for airplanes. So say an airplane is coming into the airport. So your cell is the airport. So the plane is landing. He's coming in low. Think of that, coming in low.
Okay.
LDL. Okay. So LDL brings things to your cell. Then HDL takes things out high, right? It takes off high. So LDL brings things in, HDL takes things out. Now, if you can imagine, if you have too much LDL going in and not enough HDL going out, what's going to happen? You're going to shove the cell full of stuff, and it's going to get bloated, and you're not going to have efficient nutrient transportation around your body. So you need that HDL to come out. Another way I explain it to people is like HDL, think of it as a sump pump. If you've ever had a basement or a pool where you've pumped water out of a pool or a hot tub or something like that, that's the sump pump. So it's like taking nutrients out of the cell. And if your sump pump isn't working, you're going to get backed up.
Right.
That's what happens, right?
Now, that doesn't mean go cuckoo on all the bad oils, because the bad oils are still not good for you.
No, the bad oils give you too much LDL. And then you get that problem where you're putting too much into the cell, and it's bad stuff anyway. It's going to
That's why
oxidize the LDL.
Right.
Oxidized LDL is the dangerous stuff. That's what you don't want. And that happens with the bad stuff.
Right.
So now good cholesterol is grass-fed butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, all these types of things, ghee, all that type of stuff. Those are the good oils.
Stay away from all the others.
Yeah, corn oil, safflower oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, on all those.
Olive oil, not too bad, but don't cook with it.
Right, because if you heat it, it will change the molecular structure and become bad. Okay, so that is another point of contention there. Right. All right, so cholesterol over 199. Next one, number 6. Okay, where are we at? 822. Oh, we're not bad. We'll go over time a little bit. We're okay. All right, so number 6, measure blood sugar early. First thing in the morning, that's when you should test your blood sugar. And we have a client right now who's gone through a weight loss program before, and that's when they always would test their blood. And I scratched my head going, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So she was in the habit of doing that, and she showed me her blood sugar, and I went, oh, she says she was trying to get into ketosis. She was one of our people doing a ketogenic diet because she has too much sugar in her system. And so she showed me her glucose was like 93, and then her ketones were like 0.1 or something, really, really low. So she was, when you take that calculation, you end up with GKI, your glucose to ketone indicators, I think is what that stands for. So it was that has to be below 9 to be in ketosis, which means you're burning fat instead of sugars. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're burning fat instead of sugars if you are in ketosis. She was not in ketosis, and she'd been trying so hard. She was sticking to her diet, and I was like, oh, I'm failing. And I said, wait a minute. You sent me this reading at like 8:30 in the morning. Right. When did you test? She says, well, right before I texted you. I said, okay, let's try something. Do it again. I said, when's your first meal? She says, well, I'm not eating till noon like you told me. I said, good. So let's test at 11. Okay. So she texts me again at 11. She goes, oh my gosh, look at this. Her glucose was the same, 93. But her ketones had quadrupled.
Wow. Yep.
So now she was in ketosis. Why? Because early in the morning, so you go to sleep. So 8 o'clock at night, you stop eating. This is what people who are doing this program do. So they stop eating at 8, fast through the night, and then in the morning when you first get up, your body hangs on to a little bit of glycogen to give you a little bit of oomph in the morning.
To get you out of bed.
To get you out of bed. You got to have some energy. So it stores a little bit of glycogen. Your body doesn't store much glycogen in the first place. So when you're sleeping, it stores that, holds on to it. So when you wake up, boom, pushes some glycogen into the bloodstream. You're like, woo, I'm up. That combined with adrenaline, you're going. And then shortly after that, it's done. And the body's like, okay, feed me. And if you say, nope, we're not doing that, it'll say, okay, I have no choice but to go to your fat. So it stops burning sugar and goes to the fat and starts burning that. When our client measured later at 11 a.m., that's what her body had switched to. It had switched to burning fat, evidenced by the ketones quadrupling just between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. And she was a big sigh of relief. Oh, good. Okay, I am in ketosis. I said, yes, that's why we test consistently the same time every day, not early in the morning. If you're going to measure your blood sugar, fasting blood sugar, do a true fast overnight when you first wake up. Like we said, there's an artificial boost of sugar there. You're going to get a wrong reading. Wait till you're truly fasting with nothing in your stomach and no glycogen to speak of. Your body's going to have to find a different way to test itself. And that is when you should be testing. Now, if you have diabetes, you can work your way into this. I wouldn't suggest this right away. And certainly if you have type 1 diabetes,
Right.
consult your doctor and do it the way they want it done. But if you are just trying to lose weight and eat less carbs and sugar and this kind of thing,
And bring your A1C down.
and bring your A1C down
Yeah.
and all that, this is what you need to be doing. Don't test first thing in the morning.
Right.
All right. So another myth, this one might surprise you, coming from a company that sells probiotics. You need to take probiotics every day. No, you don't. No, you don't. And that was a little bit of a lesson that we learned from Dr. Lewis.
All right.
So part of what he suggests when people need to kind of fix their gut is he puts them on this probiotic regimen, but it's not a probiotic every day. And in fact, it's different probiotics. So people will say, well, I found a probiotic I like and I just take that every day. Don't do that, because probiotics are seeding like a seed you put in the garden. So think of a garden, and if you put the same thing in that garden, so say you're planting carrots, and you plant some seeds for carrots, and then the next day you plant more, and then you plant more, and you plant more, and you plant more. Is that going to help, or is that counterproductive?
Right. Not only that, you're going to have an overgrowth of that certain.
Yeah. And what if that soil is not even conducive to growing the carrots?
Right.
And nothing grows. If you move to a brand new house and there's a garden out back and you're like, ooh, a garden, I've never had a garden before. You're probably going to plant a whole lot of things just to see what sticks, what grows in this garden. I'm unfamiliar with this soil in this yard.
Right.
I need
Or
to kind of
what's
try a little bit of
already
everything.
in there, for instance, you go to a new house and there could be something that's already in there that was cut down that will come up on
Right.
its own.
Right. So what are we saying? Why are we comparing this to seeds? Probiotic is seeding the gut. Your gut is the garden. The probiotics are the seed. So you seed every once in a while, like with Dr. Lewis's plan, I think it's like twice a week or something, but you try all kinds of different things. You are doing something every day, but as far as a bottled probiotic, it's like twice a week and two different kinds. And then the rest of the week is doing things like sauerkraut and pickles and olives and kimchi and kefir and all these things that have different probiotic cultures. You're throwing yogurt. Yeah. You're trying to throw as many different types of strains of probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics are food for probiotics, by the way, into your gut to see what sticks. And you'll know it sticks when all of a sudden your bowel habits change. And you're like, oh, I'm having a smooth, nice, easy bowel movement every morning. It's consistent. It's voluminous. There's actually something there, and I feel really good afterwards. You'll know that that's working then. So is that one and done? You're good forever? No, every once in a while, every couple of months, okay, take a different probiotic. We have 3 different types of probiotics in our supplement drawer. And I just, every once in a while, when I think of it twice a week or so, I'll take this one. Oh, I'll try that one next time. And I keep doing that, especially if my bowel habits change and all of a sudden I haven't gone for a couple of days. I'm like, what did I do? I must have done something outside my diet or gone to a birthday party or something and ate something there or whatever. Or maybe I was upset and my emotions affected my digestion. Stressed. Yep. Yeah. So every once in a while you need to do this. You don't need to take a probiotic every day of your life, and you certainly should not be taking the same brand of probiotic all the time. You need to switch it up. So there you go.
Same kind of thing
Spread
with
it around.
cod liver oil.
Yep, same thing.
Switch that up too.
Yep, you can switch brands there. Now, with probiotics, one more thing about this, since we're on the topic, is that don't do the ones that are refrigerated. They seem like they're specialized. They're more expensive. They seem like, ooh, these are the good ones. But if a probiotic is so fragile that it has to be kept refrigerated and your body is 98.6 degrees, what's going to happen the minute you take it?
Right.
Is it going to die? Is it that fragile? You have to keep it refrigerated. The best ones are ones that don't need to be refrigerated because they are what's called enteric coated or stabilized.
Right.
So what that means is, probiotics need to go to your lower colon in order to do their work. It's not in the stomach. It has to go way down. It has to go all the way through your digestive system. So that probiotic has to be protected, or at least protected enough so that some of it at least arrives safely in your colon and then opens up. And then the seed is planted, as it were. So that's why lots of companies who don't have enteric coated probiotics. That's not so common anymore. It's pretty common that they're enteric coated, but if you see billions and billions and billions of I sound like Trump, billions and billions and anyway, miss that guy, don't you? Have you been to the pump lately? I miss that guy. Anyway,
Tonight,
he was boisterous and he was annoying, but man, could he run a company? I mean, a country?
Or both.
Oh, is that a Freudian slip? Anyway, so if you take probiotics and they have billions and billions of CFUs, it's so that at least some of them will survive by the time they get to your gut. That's why they put so many billion colony-forming units. That's what CFUs are, colony-forming units, as in bacterial colonies.
Right.
So the ones that aren't that high and they're enteric-coated, bingo. Now you got a good probiotic. The one that we sell from Billy Weiss is actually a good one. He couldn't find any good ones, so he made his own. When a pharmacist makes his own stuff, it's probably a good one.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. All right, so next one. Avoid veggies that cause gas. Okay, this is kind of like the probiotic thing, or not the probiotic thing, the gluten thing. So we avoided gluten because it causes us problems. Well, okay, maybe it's not gluten's fault, totally. Maybe it's something in our gut. Maybe there's something where we're not exactly healthy and we can't handle gluten when really we should be able to. So that's the same thing with some people who go with veggies. They say, oh, I can't handle onions. I can't handle garlic. It just gives me all kinds of gas and I'm uncomfortable. Okay, avoid it until you figure out what's going on. It's not the veggie's fault. It's something in your gut that's not working. Number one, we like to test for something called H. pylori. H. pylori is it's a parasite. Well, some people call it parasite. No, that's not correct. It's a bacteria. It's a bacteria that basically creates a natural antacid. And you might think, oh, well, that's a good thing. Antacid's just like having a Tums. You don't want antacid. You want strong stomach acid so that as soon as that food comes down, whoop, it's getting eaten up by the acid. It's gone. You don't want H. pylori getting in there and interfering and making the acid weaker by providing a bacterium that is antacid. We don't want that. And typically people who have a lot of digestive problems and don't have good digestion or good nutrient absorption, which is evidenced by something called ESR, which is erythrocyte sedimentation rate. We can get into that another time. But that just indicates that you are not absorbing well if you have a high ESR. And so we need to increase the stomach acid. How do we do that? By getting rid of H. pylori, number one.
Right.
That's
and it is
really
actually
easy to do.
Pretty prevalent. Again, that's one of those things where
I had H. pylori a few years ago.
Yeah, the LabCorp range is here, and we look at it here. So, for instance, you may think, according to your doctor in LabCorp, that you don't have it, but we would look at it, and if it's over this certain number, you've got something going on like there. We've got some H. pylori.
They say that, 0.25 or something like that, and we say, well, if you have 0.25, that means you got it. Doesn't mean you're on the low end, you don't need to worry about it. It's like, no, there's a little bit of H. pylori creating a little bit of a problem, and it's only going to get bigger. So let's get rid of it. So there's two supplements that we recommend. One is called Pylorosil, the other one is Pyloraplex. And anyway, super easy to take, and they're not expensive, and they're over the counter. So it's easy to get rid of this.
And they're natural.
They're natural, yeah.
They're not a drug. They're a supplement.
But you do need to get rid of it. I had H. pylori, and I got rid of it a different way. It wasn't really, I didn't even realize it at the time. A chiropractor friend told me that I had H. pylori. And then I got so concerned with my digestion that I was having a gnawing, sore tummy, a knot in the left side of my colon the whole time. I thought I had colon cancer. Both of my parents had colon cancer, so it was a legitimate concern. So I thought, well, I better have a colonoscopy. And this was 10 years ago. And so when you have a colonoscopy, they get you to flush out your colon with this stuff. You drink this stuff and you're on the toilet pretty much all day to clean you out so they can get a clear view when they put the camera in and they can see what's going on. So I had cleared out my gut. I mean, good bacteria, bad bacteria, everything was out. And then I felt kind of good after that. And I thought, oh, that's strange. That day I go for the colonoscopy. Oh, nothing found, Mr. Laird, you're fine. I come home, no more knot in my stomach. So I had gotten rid of the H. pylori just by drinking this stuff that cleaned me out for the colonoscopy. I don't recommend that, but that's how I got rid of it personally. So that was kind of an interesting way to go about it. But anyway, so yeah, it's easy to get rid of that. Now, so there's two kind of kind of situations. That's one of them. Not enough stomach acid when you're getting gas from eating veggies, especially raw veggies. The other one is not enough enzymes.
Right.
So raw veggies and enzymes, raw veggies have their own enzymes, and your body produces some enzymes to eat up the
And after a
cooked food.
certain year in our lives, we stop producing enzymes. Don't we only get as many as we get? And
That's a
once they're
concept.
gone,
That's like a theory, and I'm not sure if it's been proven or not. It's certainly, they call it an enzyme bank, so that as you get older, your bank account for enzymes gets smaller.
that's why you need raw veggies.
Yeah, that's why you need raw veggies. That's why you take a digestive enzyme. Now, when we go traveling, like we're going this weekend traveling, we are going to take digestive enzymes because we're going to be eating in restaurants. We can't control what they put in the food. So we're going to eat as healthy as we can, but we know it's not going to be like what we would have at home. So we're going to give ourselves a little bit of help to digest that with our digestive enzyme. Now, you say, well, what if my stomach acid is just too low? That can happen too, even without H. pylori. You can have a reduced stomach acid again as you age.
Right.
So some people take betaine HCl, that is basically hydrochloric acid, to help spur your stomach and give it a little bit of help. It's not going to hurt you. Your stomach has a strong lining, and you're supposed to have good acid in there. Incidentally, you don't have acid in your stomach all the time. It's only once you start eating something that the body senses, oh, we're eating something, food's going to be coming down into the stomach. We need to pump in some acid. Only at that point does your stomach actually contain acid. Other than that, there's not a lot of acid in there. So that's why you need to eat vegetables first, right, followed by cooked food, followed by heavy proteins. Because, like Jody mentioned, the raw food has its own enzymes that will sort of self-break down to some degree, along with good stomach acid. So again, you need both of those. And then you get into your cooked vegetables and your processed foods, like any kind of pasta or anything out of a box or a can or something like that, or anything that's cooked. So then your body works on that. And then by that time, there's lots of acid in the stomach. Now you put in the proteins. So that is the order in which you should be eating things.
And you were going to mention, along with the betaine HCl, you were going to mention one more thing, but you got carried away. What else could people do before they eat to help spur?
What are you thinking?
Apple cider vinegar.
Oh, apple cider vinegar. Okay, yes, good thought. Yes, that's another thing. Take a shot of apple cider vinegar. For some folks, that's a little uncomfortable. For me, honestly, that was uncomfortable. So I stopped doing that.
Really?
Yep. But other people find that's just fine. So whatever my system didn't like.
Or make a salad dressing with it.
You can make, yeah, and that's another way to get it in.
Does that bother you? Because we did
No,
that
that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. But it's just...
But a whole shot at once before you eat.
Yeah, like some people literally take a shot glass full of apple cider vinegar and down it. Ooh, I can't do that. So, and some people will dilute it a little bit with water. I never did try that. Maybe I should try that. But yeah, just the solid apple cider vinegar, straight, I couldn't do it. All right, so avoid saturated fat. We don't want to have saturated fat. Well, yeah, you do. Saturated fat is very healthy. And actually going too much on the other side of things, you're going to get into the, number one, the bad oils, first of all, that we don't want to be doing, like we mentioned before, corn oil, canola, soybean, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be doing that. So saturated fat is good for you. It's good for the brain. We mentioned before
Absolutely.
that when the body burns fat, you're creating ketones. Ketones, the brain loves ketones. That's the brain's favorite food.
Why does a brain look like a walnut?
Because walnuts have lots of good fats in them. Mm-hmm. Yep, and the brain is what, 60% fat. So what do you think we should be feeding the brain? Maybe fat. It's logical, right? That's why our program is called the Biologic Blueprint. We use logic, okay? So yeah, that makes sense. So we eat saturated fat. Now, what kind of saturated fat? You don't want to be having saturated fat from animals that are not grass-fed.
No.
So again, that's going to create a negative situation. So you have to be choosy. You can't take these statements that are thrown out there, or even what we're saying, eat saturated fat. Well, it's not all that simple. It's not a blanket statement. You still have to be very choosy about what you eat. You have to become educated. And this is a time when we're living in right now that you really have to educate yourselves. We've seen the self-destruction of a lot of the medical community right now. Just this whole pandemic thing threw a monkey wrench into it. And a lot of people started realizing, the medical community I mean, my doctor's a nice guy, but the medical community itself is not after my best health. It's just not. It's about come for an appointment every 6 months, spend 5 minutes, give me a drug, I'm out the door. That ain't healthcare. That's keep me alive with a drug to line the pockets of Pfizer plan. That's what that is. You've got to realize, you've got to do your own homework. Just like people homesteaded, and back in the day they didn't have a choice. If you were moving out west in a covered wagon, you kind of had to knew what you were doing to build a sod house. You knew how to plant it. You had to know how to plant a garden, maybe tend animals. You would teach your children the same thing. You kind of learned these things, and I'm sure back in Europe they didn't necessarily know those things. They had to learn it, come over, and then in order to survive and thrive, they had to know these things. They had to teach themselves. This is a time where you need to teach yourself.
Right.
The terrain is not the Wild West. That's not what you're fighting. That's what's trying to kill you. What you need to do to keep alive is the medical system is not in your favor. I mean, your doctor may know a lot. They may be very wise. They may offer some good advice, but the whole system is not
broken.
for you. It is a conspiracy against you. Not necessarily a conspiracy, but it's after profits. It's not after health. And it's a sad state of affairs, but that's why you need to educate yourself.
Right.
And find out things about saturated fats and such. There's lots of information online. Let's just mention a good couple places to go. So these are all okay, I'm sick of this term, but I'm going to use it. Conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorists.
It's such a bad word nowadays.
What do we say? The difference between conspiracy and the truth is about 6 months.
Yeah.
Now it seems to be about 6 days or 6 hours.
Right. We learned that this
shorter.
week.
Yeah. So anyway, these sites we're going to mention, you're going to go, oh, there's a bunch of whacked out people that do like prepping and stuff like this, and I don't want to do that. These people know what they're talking about, and if you aren't prepping now, you need to do it now, because all of a sudden the brimstone, as Michael Rood says, is going to hit the fan, and you're not going to know anything because you didn't educate yourself and you didn't listen to all those crazy preppers who are ready now, and they got no problem. Oh, lights turned off, no more gas. Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
And don't you want to be like that? I want to be like that. I want to be like, no problem. Things happen. We don't have the internet anymore. We don't have any lights. We know what to do. We're good. So, need to learn all that kind of stuff. Anyway. So, listen to the conspiracy theorists, which are, we're going to give you some websites. I'm sorry.
Right.
So, naturalnews.com. That is Mike Adams. He is brilliant. Something I was just thinking of the other day. We ordered some wheat online, because some wheat berries.
We don't even eat bread.
We don't even eat bread. But I'm like, wait a second. Wheat is going through the roof, and all kinds of supply chain things are falling apart because of what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. That is going to have a domino effect like you wouldn't believe.
And what does Scripture say about bread in the last days?
Yeah, no kidding, right? So we ordered some, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to keep this so that if things don't hit the fan that soon, it'll stay good. So fortunately, the company that we ordered from, the Bread Beckers, by the way, that's who we bought from. And they seal in their wheat. If you buy it in the 6-gallon bucket like we did, they treat it with nitrogen, so that, or pardon me, carbon dioxide? Sorry, I can't remember. Anyway, I feel silly because I don't know the gas they use. But anyway, they put a gas in there that basically, it's carbon dioxide. That's what it is. It takes out all the oxygen and basically preserves that wheat, and it's sealed. So until you crack it open,
Right.
And even after you crack it open, they said it's still good for a long time because it's been treated and it's fine now. So anyway, the Bread Beckers, we went there, get some wheat. Prices are skyrocketing, but better get it now before it gets even worse. So naturalnews.com. Now, the reason I mention that is because naturalnews.com has a way that you can make your own oxygen absorbers. It's very, very simple. You take like a fabric bag, not a plastic bag, but a fabric bag. Mm-hmm. You put in some steel wool and salt.
Wow.
Because the chemical reaction between the humidity, the steel wool, and the salt will create rust, where basically the oxidation of the rust in the wool is eating the oxygen in the air.
Wow.
Combined with the salt. Same way your car rusts if you live in a northern state. Your car rusts because of the salt on the roads that they put on, right? Same concept. And that's basically eating oxygen. It's oxidizing. It is absorbing oxygen into the molecular structure of the steel wool. That's what's happening.
Interesting.
So that's a very easy. So he teaches all kinds of stuff like that. How to plant your own garden, how to have an indoor garden, how to defend yourself. He's not afraid to talk about guns and stuff. Go there too to find out about that. All kinds of, how to grow your own food, all this good stuff. How to survive, how to clean water if all you have is a pond out back. How are you going to make that good to drink? Things were really, if things got really bad, if you followed all these pieces of advice, you'd be just fine. And you could help your friends and neighbors too, who aren't as wise as you are. Okay. So naturalnews.com is one of them. The Bread Beckers, by the way, get your stuff
say
from
that
them.
because somebody, Aspen McKinney online just said, the bread who? Link, please.
Oh, the Bread Beckers.
One word.
You just Google or DuckDuckGo, or what's the new one you found?
Brave. DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo pulled a fast one about Russia today, but we won't get into that. Anyway.
So Becker, Becker.
Yes, the Bread Beckers, Beckers, the Bread Beckers. And you'll know it. You'll go there. It'd be all about bread and ordering wheat and ordering sourdough and all kinds of stuff. So.
And they're going to be on Shabbat Night Live?
They're going to be on Shabbat Night Live in a couple of months. They're going to record with us next month in April. And I think we're going to have the shows ready by May, June, something like that. Anyway, so that's one website. Where else do we go to get stuff?
Some that we probably shouldn't mention.
Yep.
Too controversial.
A guy. So I'm just going to spell his name. Alex Jones. Okay? He's probably the one that people laugh at the most, but you know what? He's the most correct out of all the crazy guys. So
Alex Jones was right.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, we do listen to him. We do listen to Mike Adams.
I like Bongino.
Dan Bongino, yeah, he's got some good. He's not really a prepper type of guy, but
no.
You can listen to all these podcasts too. So Bongino is good. Dan Bongino.
Rogan once in a while.
Joe Rogan's okay. Yeah,
if you can handle his.
So just start opening yourself up to guys like this. They have a lot of good advice. And prepping websites like there's one called what is it called? PatriotSupply.com. PatriotSupply.com. They have everything from solar generators. Jaron Jackson is a little guy who is getting attention, and he's very, very much a believer. He bases everything on the Bible. Very wise. He was in the military. Knows what the heck he's talking about. And Jody,
is a homesteader now.
He's a homesteader.
And he also speaks and.
Yes. So now how do you listen to him? Is it a podcast?
I listen to him on Rumble.
Rumble. Okay, so there you go. Another good site. Go to rumble.com. That is basically a YouTube alternative. Laird Wellness has a channel up on Rumble. I am working on getting some of our more controversial topics up there where we don't have to worry about it being torn down like YouTube is going to put me in YouTube jail and Facebook jail.
We may move over there completely one day. Who knows?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how we can do this type of thing, this streaming thing that we do on Rumble. We can't do it on YouTube. They require a certain number of viewers and watch hours that we have not built up to yet. So that's why we're not on YouTube. That's why we have to put it up on afterwards. I would love to.
ForPatriots.com.
ForPatriots.com is another one. Yep, they have. They just sent me I was on there the other day, and so I got an Instagram commercial from them about an electric or solar power generator, which I'm very, very interested in. By the way, if you're looking for solar power generators, I think that is a brilliant idea because it doesn't make noise. When we did a prepping, this is turning into a prepping show, but whatever. When we did a prepping series on Shabbat Night Live, one of the things was don't make a lot of noise. Don't let others know what you've got. That's why if you're hunting, maybe use a bow instead of a firearm. Maybe use a solar generator instead of one that runs on gas. Never mind gas. Good night. I mean, is there going to be any gas when you need it to have a generator? But solar panels, plug in a couple of 100-watt solar panels, put it into your generator. There's one called Jackery, which is really good. It gets 5 stars everywhere I've looked. It's orange and black. That's how you'll know you're seeing the right one. The only issue with that one apparently is that the solar panels themselves are not weatherproof. So if you're gathering some sun and then you forget about it and starts to rain, that could be a problem. And say, that's not good. So maybe they'll probably be working on better panels, I'm assuming, later on. But anyway, you can power a refrigerator and a freezer for like a whole day on one charge with these things. That's pretty remarkable. That's a lot of power. So yeah, you can get these things, depending on how much power you want. They're between $1,000 and $2,000. You might think, oh my, that's a lot of money. Would you be glad to spend it and never have to use it, then not buy it? All of a sudden, then they're not available and you can't get one and the power goes out and you are hooped. I mean, that...
You should be a spokesperson for the company.
Well, I'm thinking of, we right now, what we're doing is we were considering getting a new vehicle.
Yep.
And we were going to save and try and get this new vehicle. And, it's for us, that's a big deal. We don't buy expensive vehicles. I got a 2004.
We drive them till they die.
I got a 2004 Prius out there with 287,000 miles on it. And I'm going to fix it. I'm about to put $900 into that thing to fix it because I don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a vehicle right now. We are trying to save as much as we can and spend those things on generators, on food, on all these storable things, on, water purification systems. Are we nuts? Is it never going to happen? Are we being fooled by people who are panicking? I don't know, but I don't want to panic when if it all comes down. I mean, Revelation, if you look at the book of Revelation, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So we're going to be here for certainly part of it. So anyway, that's what we're doing. If you want to follow suit, that is what we're doing. And those are some of the websites we follow. Any other ones that we can think of while we're sitting here?
No. But move on.
Okay.
It's 8:51.
I'm sorry. Look at that. We gave you some bonus time today. All right. Aren't we great? Okay. So now, fasting, real quick. Fasting is only for weight loss. No, it's not. Fasting has many different benefits. It benefits all kinds of things like autophagy, where it helps your cells clean themselves out. Because when you're eating, your body's concentrating on metabolizing that food. Metabolizing is like a campfire. There's ash left over. It creates a bit of a mess, especially if you're eating carbohydrates. There's a lot of metabolic waste that comes with eating foods that convert to sugar. And so your body's, first of all, protecting itself against the sugar. So our immune system now gets involved. And then it's cleaning everything up. And so you can't really get autophagy happening. Autophagy, we talked about this last time, was your body cleaning out the cells. So that is one thing that happens. And by the way, so if you're exercising, so you're eating right, you're exercising, you think you're doing everything right, fasting you need to add into this. And I just learned this a little while ago. I didn't realize this, and you didn't think about it. And if you think about it, it makes sense. But if you're eating right, okay, you're taking care of one thing. You're exercising, okay, that's cardiovascular. You're taking care of your heart and everything. What about your organs? Well, surely eating right helps your organs. Yes, it does. But your organs need to be cleaned out. That's what fasting is for. Fasting is like exercise for your liver. That's why you need to fast. Because exercising and eating right is not going to help clean out your liver. It will help to keep it clean, but it's almost like a coffee maker with a filter. The filter is like your liver. If you're constantly making coffee and you never put like say it's one of those reusable filters. If you never clean the filter, eventually it's going to get clogged up and it's going to get nasties in there. You have to stop making coffee for a little while. Maybe you just run some hot water through it, i.e. fasting, in order to clean your filter. That's how you clean a filter. You don't just put good stuff in. You can put the best coffee in the world in that filter, but eventually it's going to get clogged up with something. Right. So you've got to clean it out. You have to stop putting in and just pull some things out. And that's what fasting is for.
Fasting is also for your spiritual mind and body.
Yes, because what happens with fasting, so we mentioned it this earlier with this client of ours who measured her blood later and she was burning ketones. Okay, so ketones are the brain's favorite food, right? So if you have no carbs or sugar to go on and now your brain is relying on fats, it likes that. Oh, all of a sudden the lights come on. You're getting great ideas. You've got energy. Wow, you're thinking of all kinds of good stuff. It's amazing. If you've ever done fasting, you'll know it's just like, wow, my brain is like, it just woke up from like this 6-month stupor or something. It's crazy.
Right. Brain fog.
Brain fog, yeah. So that's why fasting is good. And we're not talking about like a 10-day fast or something like this. We're just talking about a daily fast, a daily lifestyle change where you change from stopping to eat at 8 p.m. and then just drinking water and maybe coffee with some butter and MCT oil in the morning to sort of satiate yourself and put some fat in, so that you're going from fat over your body eating fat overnight to drinking fat in the morning, and then you go to fat after that once your body's done with that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that is a good way to do it. So just intermittent fasting is what that is. So basically 16 hours of fasting, only an 8-hour window, noon till 8 p.m. is when you actually eat. That is fasting as well. And that is just as good to clean your liver.
Right.
And then every once in a while you might want to fast for a whole day. I still find that a little bit difficult, but I can do the 16-8 thing. That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So get in the habit of doing that. All right, here we go. The number one myth of wellness is that vitamin D is not important. Okay? There are some doctors and, even people we're close to who don't believe that vitamin D is important. And it kind of shocks me. It shocks me and it doesn't shock me. It shocks me because I'm thinking, wow, you're in a business that would probably want to really promote vitamin D. And then it doesn't shock me because they are medical doctors stuck in a system getting a narrative that vitamin D is not important. And they get fed these research papers that say, oh, it isn't important. But wait a minute. Is it not important? I mean, did the research paper actually say that? Or what's behind this research? Who's funding it? What's going on? You know that supplement companies are not going to do research because that kind of research is really expensive. So you can pretty much guarantee that when you're seeing a research study that says vitamin D is important and you need to have a higher amount, it's not being skewed by money from a supplement company throwing money at the researchers to kind of a wink, wink, nod, nod, make these results kind of good for us. A lot of that happens. A lot of that happens with drugs and with things like big corporations like the Cattle Feeders Association or the sugar industry. These industries that have a lot of money behind them and a lot of people sort of pooling money together to fund a study. Look at that with a very critical eye. Look before you see the research heading, what it says. We found that saturated fat is dangerous for you. Okay, who did that? Who funded that? Go to the very end. Don't even read the middle part. Go to the end. See who funded it, because they have to disclose that. That's called your conflicts of interest. They have to disclose those at the end. And so sometimes you might look at that and go, okay, so this industry funded this. They're looking for this kind of result. Let's see if it's true. And sometimes it's surprising. Sometimes the researchers are very true to their word and they say, no, I'm sorry. We did not find what you were looking for and gave us a wink, wink, nod, nod for. That's not what we found, and we're not going to say it. So kudos to some of them. But anyway.
I have one quick question here. I read we get no D in winter from the sun. Is that true?
That is true, yes, because there's different rays coming from the sun. There's UVA, UVB. So the dangerous rays still make it through the atmosphere in winter. The ones that would create vitamin D do not. And it's because of the angle of the sun. So here's the sun. Here's, in summer, we're getting directly above us. Then in winter, it's kind of like this, right? We're in the northern hemisphere, so it kind of passes through at an angle. And that angle is enough to create more atmospheric filtering than summer does. And that atmospheric filtering will not filter out the rays that create a tan or a burn. That's why you can go skiing in winter and get a sunburn or get a suntan up on the slopes, but you're not going to get vitamin D. Just because you have a tan doesn't mean you're getting vitamin D. Two different kinds of rays. The rays that would create the chemical reaction with the cholesterol on your skin to create vitamin D in your bloodstream do not make it through that filtering process at the angle at which the sun is during winter. They get filtered out. So, yes, that is true. You cannot get vitamin D in winter. Anybody who lives above the now this is from Dr. Mercola, I learned several years ago. If you live at a latitude above, basically if you live north of Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States at least, in winter, you will not get any vitamin D.
Wow. And
you need to supplement. And that even includes us in North Carolina. We're above Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But if you live in Florida, okay, maybe it's a little different because you're closer to the equator and that travel,
Tilt.
that tilt of the Earth is not going to be quite as
Right.
pronounced. And certainly in Hawaii, it's not going to be at all. I mean, they're very close to the equator. So there you go. You cannot get vitamin D in the winter. Now, do we supplement vitamin D in the summer? We do. Not as much.
Not as much. If we forget here and there, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal because we're out in the sun, and we make sure we're out in the sun a lot in the summer.
Yep, and we make sure that we don't burn. So we do this very strategically. If we go to the beach, first time out, like late April, early May is when we can start doing that in the Carolinas. We're careful because right now I'm whitey. I mean, so I got to be very careful when I go out there. So we time it because we go out there. You know what it is when you first go to the beach in the right after being in winter all year. It's like, oh, I can't wait to be out there for hours and just lay out in the sun and be warm. Yeah, okay, you know what that does, especially to white folks like me. So, we set a timer on our phones, and we set a timer, 15 minutes, maybe 15 minutes aside. That's it. And then it's like timer goes off, get in the shade, put on some sunscreen or something, some healthy sunscreen, or just stay in the shade, put on a hat, put on a shirt. I prefer to do that because the good sunscreens are the ones that stay on top of your skin. They get kind of bluish or white. That's a Blue Lizard is a good one.
Yeah.
Or there's another one called Naked or something like that. It's a spray. But anyhow, it contains titanium dioxide. It basically stays. It's the stuff that
Like zinc.
zinc
Yeah.
zinc oxide.
Yeah.
Zinc oxide, right? That the surfers put on their nose, that kind of thing, or the lifeguards, that stays white. That's the good stuff. Well, I don't want that white all over my body. I would rather put on a UV friendly T-shirt and use that as my sunscreen. So that's what I'll do. And I literally have a surf shirt that I'll have long sleeve surf shirts and short sleeve, but most times I wear the long sleeve ones. That's what I'll go on boogie board with. I'll of course cover this thing with a hat. A cheap one because I always lose them in the waves. So don't bring your favorite hat out in the waves. And then my shorts are just fine because most of my torso is under the water. So, but anyway, that's what I do. And so you may want to do that, or you may want to do some healthy sunscreen. But yes, make sure you don't burn. Do 15 minutes if you're like me. If you have darker skin, if you're African American or of Mexican descent or something like that, okay, you can afford to go in longer, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour.
Yep.
Because you're more protected because of your melatonin.
So in the winter, we usually do about 10,000 a day.
Yep.
And in the summer, we may do 5,000 a day or 5,000 every couple days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Twice a week or something like that. When we think of it, oh yeah, I should take some vitamin D, but
because we're out. Yep.
Yeah, we're outside a lot. So anyway, just temper it that way. Okay, there you go. Those are your top 10 myths regarding. Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to show you this. I forgot to show you a couple things. Okay, check this out. So vitamin D. This is here's a study on this. So the effects of vitamin D now this was interesting on reducing cancer. This is in a brand new April 2022 Life Extension magazine. I found it online as well. The same story. The effects of vitamin D on reducing cancer incidence and mortality become more evident or more pronounced after continuous supplementation for 1 or 2 years. Of vitamin D. This is why it's important to take vitamin D every day or be in the sun every day.
Right.
You'll protect yourself from vitamin D or protect yourself from cancer rather, and from, as you notice in the first line of this article, 25 to 30% reduction in autoimmune disease risk. Now, why is that so important? Why am I harping on that? Because after COVID, there's a lot of autoimmune stuff coming out. Mm-hmm. Because for whatever reason, that virus, whether it was manufactured or not, it did something unnatural. It woke up stuff. I mean, people are having shingles. I went to a dermatologist friend of mine. Because I had what looked like what we thought was ringworm on my back. And it turns out it wasn't ringworm. He says, yeah, it's some kind of thing coming out. It's like, it looks like eczema. I've never had eczema in my life. But he says, I said, how can that work? I've never had eczema. He says, did you have COVID? I said, yeah, a couple of months ago I had COVID. He says, I'm seeing it all over the place. People coming to me and all kinds of autoimmune things like that are just popping out of the woodwork. This thing woke up all kinds of things. He says, be glad it's just that. I have people over here with COPD, and it's a heck of a lot worse now that they had COVID. They're still on oxygen than they had it months ago. And all kinds of little weird things, he said, are popping up on people's skin. He's getting all kinds of people come in like me going, I don't know what this is on my skin. And turns out it's an autoimmune reaction to COVID from a few months ago.
Crazy.
Weird. Yeah, so that's why you want vitamin D supplementation for a couple of years, because now we have a new threat. If you've had COVID or if you took the jab or whatever, same thing, to a more degree, by the way. But that's why vitamin D is going to be so important, because now you are more susceptible to autoimmune diseases. Wouldn't you want to make yourself less susceptible? Taking vitamin D is going to help do that.
Right.
All right, one more thing. This was the research article that they were referring to, by the way. So that is just something there. All right. So now, if you want to know more about our program and how you can test your blood and make sure you are healthy, we have now, in addition to our Biologic Blueprint program, if you didn't want to do 12 weeks, if you don't want to do 6 weeks, I mean, lots of people are, you can still do that. You can get to us at lairdwellness.com/blueprint. And I'm going to show you that. Here it is right here. Okay, I'll show it to you in a second. I can only show you one thing at a time. So let's show you this. This is the blood panel that we use on our program. If you do the 12 weeks, you get 2 of these, one at the beginning, one at the end. If you do the 6 week, it's just one of them. And if you just want to do it by itself, this is what you can do. You can literally go to our store and buy just the blood test, and start there. And if you want to add coaching in later, you can. And you have the choice of doing 55 biomarkers or the 55 biomarkers plus the spike protein risk, which a lot of people are interested in if they've had COVID or if they've had the jab. So you can buy that if you want to, and we will assess the results for you.
Yeah.
And you can decide at that point whether you want to do some coaching with us or not afterwards. So that is just something really interesting you can do there. All right. So again, if you want to do our program, there you go. lairdwellness.com/blueprint.
Summer's coming.
Summer's coming. So if you want to get healthier, like a lot of people are doing right now, we have one client. She got on this because she wanted to lose a certain amount of weight by June because summer was coming. She wanted to do it.
And not only that, it's now in, summer's coming. We always look forward to summer, but there's also a lot of other stuff coming down the pike, and it's time to take our own health back.
Yes, we don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, all the restrictions are lifted. Yeah, okay. If you're thinking like we are, you're going, yeah, I've seen this before. We're going to get all confident, and all of a sudden something else is going to be thrown at us, or some civil unrest or wars or something. There's something coming. So let's be as healthy as possible for whatever the world is going to throw at us. Okay, that is our main goal, and that is our message to you tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care.